SpaceX, Anthropic, robotics, space data centers, the investment landscape is changing faster than most people even realize. Brian Hunt has been tracking these megatrends for years, and today he's going to break down what is coming next. Welcome back to Navellier Market Buzz.
I'm excited to have Brian on Market Buzz. Brian, I've known you for years, and you're obviously one of the best writers out there, but there's a lot of depth in your Megatrend articles that I think should get everybody excited.
Oh, thank you. I'm a huge fan of your work, Louie, and always enjoy talking markets with you.
For your newsletter, you talk a lot about these megatrends. Is there something in specific that investors are missing?
Well, I think one thing we do that's unique is one of the challenges in our industry, the investment research industry or investment management, is the average investor, they love the idea of buying one stock to bet on a trend. You know, whether it's AI, whether it's smartphones, 10 years ago, is everybody wants that one company that is going to win. And that is often a loser's mentality to bet all of your chips on that one stock. On the other hand, you have ETFs, which have mushroomed in popularity over the last 20 years. The downside with ETFs is you might get 5 good companies along with 45, average to poor companies. It's better than nothing in some cases, and people can do very well with an ETF, but in my mind, it's not the ideal way to invest in a trend like AI or space, where what we're trying to do is educate people on the idea of using baskets to invest in these trends. You don't bet everything on one company, but you also don't buy an ETF. Instead, you pick 5, 6, 7, 8 of the best companies in space, in semiconductors, in robotics, and you take a chunk of money and you divide it equally, and then you buy all those companies and you treat it as one position. And so that's what we do with a lot of these themes that we're talking about, where we will create baskets, we will track baskets, and treat it as one position. And in my mind, that approach gives you the ultimate blend in risk and reward. You're not betting the farm on just one company. You're not diluting your returns with 50 crappy companies. You're buying the best. And just for example, this year, one of our themes that I know Louie also owns is engineering and construction firms. A couple years ago, I got bullish on this theme because the White House and big tech wanted to build data centers like crazy, and there's only a handful of companies that can operate on a huge scale. And they started essentially just naming their own price. And this basket of stocks is up hundreds of percent in the last 2 years. This year, it's up over 40%. And it's not an ETF, it's not an individual stock. And we've seen the same case with AI semiconductors, with memory makers, with optical networking. And so anyway, I see that as something that I think a lot of investors miss, because the average investor, bless his heart, thinks that, if I could just find that one stock, if Louie Navellier could give me just that one stock, everything would be fine. And it's just a dumb way to invest. And we're trying to educate people that there's a better way that they probably have not considered.
So right now, SpaceX has some of the biggest hype right now. For you personally, what is the next megatrend that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think in the wake of the SpaceX IPO, Elon, who is the greatest manufacturing mind of our time, he's going to have, it looks like, over $50 billion to spend on the next chapter of his business career. He'll likely have the likes of Google and other big tech companies lining up to pay him big money for launch services. And so I personally believe the IPO price of SpaceX is likely to be wildly inflated, and I'm not interested in buying the stock at IPO. But the next chapter of this trade, which is Elon having this huge amount of capital in his hands to spend on the next chapter of his career, I believe that's going to create a lot of opportunities over the next 5 years or so.
Do you think it's going to be just expanding the rocket launches, or you think it'll be Optimus?
Yeah, there's Optimus, with when it comes to Tesla, the the big challenge with humanoids, I was speaking with a robotics specialist just last week. Even if somebody had all the breakthroughs needed to build these humanoids tomorrow, the challenge is we don't have the manufacturing capacity for all of the motors and the sensory perception for all of these robots. So investing in that manufacturing capacity looks like a big opportunity. As far as space, yeah, all of the launch infrastructure, lunar infrastructure, the satellites, and yeah, I'm not so much of a single stock picker. I think in terms of themes. So yeah, I think all of these companies that provide the picks and shovels necessary for the likes of Elon to get to the moon and get to Mars will be a big opportunity.
Well, I would hope that when they do go to Mars that we do send Optimus instead of a human, because you're getting bombarded by gamma rays. So you should be mutated by the time you get there, you know? And so let's just send Optimus.
Yeah, let's send Optimus.
And, what's so interesting about robotics as well as self-driving is it's all pre-programmed. And I know they have Optimus 3 now to work on the Tesla factory floors, and Boston Dynamics is building a robot to work at the Hyundai factory in Georgia. But, we're still a ways from Optimus walking our dog or Optimus doing our dishes. So, robots don't have free will yet. And it'll be interesting if and when that arrives.
Yeah, well, I like I mentioned, I think the big unanswered question is just the manufacturing base to build all of the humanoids that Elon and other people are promising. Robotics wise, what companies are you excited about, if any, right now?
I don't have a gear company right now. I have Carpenter Technology, which is metals, aerospace mostly, but they do golf clubs too, okay? And then Howmet Aerospace. Those are my two.
Brian, do you see robotics being the next megatrend?
Yeah, I think the future is very, very bright, and the neat thing about this trend is that there's all these sub-themes inside of it. You have maritime drones, which are playing a role in the Iran war. You have delivery drones, you have military drones, you have humanoids, you have AVs, which are, robots on four wheels. And, the list goes on and on about these themes. So, yeah, I think it's a no-brainer for the next 10 years to look at 5 to 10 to 15 of these suppliers into this overall industry and just, close your eyes, put the stocks in the cupboard and forget about them for 5 or 10 years. And, the basket could be up 5-10x. When it comes to drones, I know you've been trading that on and off for 2 or 3 years. Are there any names that you believe have a bright future?
Not a pure play right now. No, I don't have a pure play. I just have the metals companies, and Howmet Aerospace is my best defense-related contractor. I would like to pick up a lot more. We have Elbit Systems out of Israel, and they're mostly the missile shield, okay, and the defense systems, and they have their own laser to take the drones down. So I would suspect if anyone could be super successful long-term, it would be Elbit.
But I would imagine that a lot of these drone companies, they don't have substantial earnings and revenue to score on the
That's
grader.
correct. That's correct. And I will not buy it till it earns money.
Yep.
Because it's just too volatile. But yeah, I think the big news for us is the order backlogs. Elbit has an incredible order backlog. Obviously, the AI data centers backlog keeps getting bigger. So the good news, we know we have at least a 3-year economic boom just based on the order backlogs and record earnings we're having. So I'm very, very optimistic.
I just want to take a moment to thank you all so much for watching. If you're enjoying this video, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. But let's get back to this wonderful conversation. So SpaceX has been the big conversation, the big hype this week, but what are you seeing could be the next big IPO trend?
Well, this year, it seems OpenAI and Anthropic are racing to get their share of the money. So that definitely seems to be the big story. But as you mentioned earlier, I'm very interested in the defense tech aspect, like Anduril. But yeah, OpenAI and Anthropic seem to be poised to hog all the attention and the money.
And Anthropic does have defense contracts now. They are competing with Palantir, and obviously Palantir's sales and earnings are ridiculous. And so I think Anthropic is going to be able to monetize this very, very quickly. They had some sort of rift with the Trump administration, but they kissed and made up. So hopefully that's over. But yeah, that's going to be probably the most successful IPO this year, and then we'll see how OpenAI does, because they haven't monetized it as well as Anthropic has.
So I'll throw out a statement. I'd like to get your take, Louie. Is OpenAI, Anthropic, they get their hands on all this money, and obviously they have to spend a lot of it on construction, semiconductors, the power grid needed to light it all up. So there's all these bears coming out of the woodwork to say the AI infrastructure boom is a bubble and a lot of the investment is going to be wasted and it's going to be a disaster. But I think you could make a case that these IPOs will give these guys huge amounts of money to continue this megatrend.
Yeah.
What's your take?
Yeah, no, I think we have two things going for us. First is the Citron firm, Mr. Andrew Left, was actually convicted in a criminal case, and he's appealing it now. But he might have 20 years in jail for just basically planning stories.
Mm-hmm.
And he went after two of my stocks. He went after Supermicro and Sezzle. And I never sold either one because there was nothing wrong with them fundamentally. But they would have innuendo, and markets react, they don't think, and he would profit from that. So I think short selling is going to, for lack of a better word, stick its tail between its legs. So I think it's just going to be less negative. We go on earnings season locked and loaded, and we count on the fundamentals are driving this market, and it's driving our GDP growth.
So the trends that have benefited from the already enormous amounts of infrastructure spending, the power, the semiconductors, the cooling stocks, your recommendation is stay long?
Yeah, we have to, because the order backlog's 3 years out now. Yeah. And this could have never happened unless the natural gas boom in America. We were talking on another segment that if at one time in 2023, there was an LNG expansion ban in America, and 16 states sued. And that ban doesn't exist now. Obviously, we're the Saudi Arabia of natural gas selling LNG to Europe and everywhere else. And we need that natural gas to fuel the data centers, because Trump told everybody in the State of the Union, please don't plug in the power grid. Okay. It's interesting. So this is very exciting, and it's a wonderful era. It's funny, I think the other reason we're having record earnings is they had accelerated depreciation where you can write off 100%. So they've already done that, and now it's all pure cash flow as all this gets built out. But as you mentioned earlier, it's the suppliers to these big mega trends that are making the most money, and those are a lot of small cap plays that I desperately are trying to find more.
You and I have been on the same mind on the natural gas side of the trade, where a couple years ago I started to see natural gas pipelines as one of the best ways to express that trade. The natural gas producers like Range, EQT, they've been kind of dead money.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have traded them over the last couple of years, but they've largely moved sideways, whereas the pipeline operators, which, they don't really care if the price is up 10 or 15%, they're just making money on the volume.
Correct.
That's been an incredible
Correct. The midstream and the pipeline companies, we recommend quite a few in growth investor, but in the dividend section, okay? And that's the easiest way to play from the domestic boom. But yeah, I love it, the fact that when the Strait of Hormuz was closed, that Trump said, well, if you need energy, just go to the Gulf of America. And sure enough, 121 ships went there. So now we own the tanker companies because the day rates are up because they're going around. And we've boosted our production. We got OPEC boosting our production. That's why UAE left OPEC. And what's happening is that everybody's adding to their inventories, but worldwide demand is going to drop in the fall because there's more people in the northern hemisphere than southern hemisphere. So I think despite all the distractions with the Strait of Hormuz, things are going to be fine. Brian, Stanford Bernstein has now getting all excited about the quantum computing stocks. The Trump administration just invested $2 billion in a bunch of them. But Investor Place led the quantum computing discovery like over 2 years ago, and you had a basket of ILNQ and D-Wave and Rigetti, and I think I'm missing one or two. But can you explain why you're so proud of that investor place, that we were early in that trend?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those trends. When we first started writing about it, it wasn't even on page 16.
Yeah.
There's the old investment strategy is you want to invest what's on page 16 and profit as it goes to page 1. Quantum computing wasn't even on page 16. But I think it was a good example of staying plugged in to industry experts and keeping an eye on what the most exciting bleeding edge companies in the world are doing. And for better or worse, I feel like even right now, investing in these companies, which are up, in some cases have gone on extraordinary runs off and on over the past couple of years, investing in them is still kind of like investing in a science project, rather than an operating business that scores well on your system. But yeah, I believe that it can be a great idea to buy a basket of these very speculative stocks, treat it as one position, and forget that you own it for 3 or 4 years, and it could be a big deal.
Well, that was. I know the first 1,000% was due to investor place. So
yeah. To my knowledge, from October to December, that in 2024, the run they went on, which I believe as a group they went up 1,800%.
Yeah.
That's not 1.8x. That's like 1,800%. That's the biggest industry move in U.S. stock market history.
Correct.
And someone was reading Investor Place back then, they would have known that it was a high potential trade. So.
Yep. So kudos to you for discovering that and leading that charge. So the other big theme that you've had, because you've been at Investor Place for a long time, is this exponential growth, where the companies can grow without adding a lot of overhead, or sometimes companies can lay people off because they're getting more efficient and the stock goes up more. Can you explain why exponential growth is so important?
Yeah. I believe it was 2014, I read the book, The Second Machine Age, by, at the time, a couple MIT professors wrote it. And, it explained exponential growth, Moore's Law, doubling, and then, getting not linear growth, but exponential growth, like, rabbits, multiplying. And I saw that chart, I understood it, and I just felt like it was the most important thing I'd ever read. I felt like I saw the future. And ever since then, I've spent at least 80% of my professional time investing in tech, studying tech, researching tech, and talking about technology, because it just seemed like everything else was tiny compared to what could happen. And it's turned out to be a good trade. The stocks have produced these gigantic returns. But even here in 2026, I believe that sometimes when we have these investment conferences, we'll be talking about this phenomenon where companies can be small 1 year, and due to exponential progress, they can be 10x, 20x larger in 2 to 3 years. We explain that to people, they still don't understand what's going on, even with professional investors.
Yeah.
And I think that's the source of a lot of bearishness, is they don't have the right mental framework through which to understand what's going on with OpenAI, Anthropic, where a company goes from zero revenue to $50 billion in annual revenue in less than 2 years. I feel like that framework that we operate with is a big advantage, because you realize that these things are not bubbles. They are the natural progression of exponential technology. And so it's still a big advantage. And, I know that you've leveraged that. I've leveraged that. And just as powerful as it has been the last 10 years, I feel like less than 1% of the public know that it's a thing. And so everybody says, oh, it's a bubble, it's a bubble, it's a bubble. It's like, no, dumbass, it's exponential technology.
That's right. Our costs are fixed, and we have no extra costs as our revenue grows. So the margins expand. Margin expansion's always been a big thing for me. Brian, I know one of the keys to be healthy is we have to pick our parents, okay? As we all know, we have a certain predestined gene pool that you and I are keenly aware of. But something like the GLP-1 craze lowers your A1C. It's obviously helps people lose weight, obviously. I'm trying to get there and catch up with you because you're in shape. What is the next big breakthrough you see in longevity?
I actually think the breakthrough is here. Will that translate into public sentiment to pile into these investments? I think the answer is yes, it will. The breakthrough is GLP-1 drugs.
Yeah.
I believe that genomics and biotech could be a very high upside trade, and I've been in it for years, and it's disappointed me for years. But now almost everybody knows someone who is on a GLP-1 drug, or they're on one themselves. And now research is showing that it may reduce heart disease, may reduce cholesterol, may slow cancer growth. So it seems like GLP-1s are the closest thing to a longevity miracle drug that's out there. It's so pervasive. I believe Lilly could start attracting a lot of attention to this trade, and that could benefit the biotech sector. It could benefit genomics. I think if we could get a couple more big announcements of a gene therapy really helping some people, then you could light the fire under a genomics / biotech bull market.
Yeah.
You've got companies like Tempus AI that are using AI to run simulations and run tests, and it could get painted with the AI trade. So I think there's a lot of potential upside there financially, in addition to lengthening our lives.
It's a volume business. They're onshoring. You know, I did sell Novo Nordisk a couple years ago. They dominated the diabetes medication. They've been grossly mismanaged. They got new leadership now. Hopefully they'll get back going. But I know Lilly just announced a new drug that the average trial was a 79-pound weight loss. That's huge.
Yeah.
I don't know how they found those people. That's a lot of weight, per patient. So that got everybody excited. So everybody wants, can I have that one now? Yes.
Any other stocks that you are interested in this world that are registering excellent grades on the grader?
Well, that's funny. We have a covariance model that tells us how to weight stocks, and by far the highest weight is now Lilly. Okay, and it's calling for over 8.8% portfolio weight, 8.84 actually. And I don't normally weight a new stock that high, but load up on Lilly.
Yeah, overall I think it's a sector with very high upside over the next 5 years.
Brian, I've been noticing that in some of your articles, data centers might be into space. Can you share with our viewers what your thought process is?
Yeah, sure. It really all comes down to the plans of the greatest manufacturing mind of our time, Elon Musk. Elon knows a lot more about the physics and the material science involved in it than I do. And Elon he's both a blessing and a curse as a tech investor, because he's obviously very successful, and investing with him has in many cases turned out to be very successful. On the other hand, he's notorious for saying something is just around the corner, but it's actually 5 to 10 years away. Case in point, full self-driving. But it's one of these things where I think he's right, and it's not just Elon. It's a lot of tech companies with deep pockets that are betting on this. So it all comes down to, can you lower the cost of these orbital compute centers relative to terrestrial data centers? And it's probably going to take longer than Elon says it will, but even if it does, investing in that infrastructure that helps expand that economy, I think could be a winner. But my gut is that, again, it's probably going to take a lot longer than what Elon says it will.
Brian, I don't think most people know that some of our competitors are AI. I know one of our competitors, you can't work for them unless you have AI write everything. I know another competitor that when the earnings come out, they have a report that's totally AI generated. So can you explain to our subscribers why we're special? Like we have real people versus a machine generating this content?
Yeah, definitely. I believe the ideal blend is you have the human, with the knowledge that you can accumulate over decades, augmented by data analytics, AI. If you go 100% AI with, in the wrong direction, it's slop, it's hallucination. But, obviously there are some quantitative hedge funds that use it as a high level. But I think what we're seeing in the research space is people are using it at a really dumb, sloppy level.
Yeah.
And you can pick up on it in about 2 sentences.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're passionate about humans augmented by data analytics, using AI to speed up the research process. I know it's massively helped me with what I do in terms of just analyzing huge amounts of information. But, when you turn that into communication for humans, I've seen Claude do some great things as far as writing quality and analytics, but it's not quite there yet with the way some of the competitors are using it to crank out slop that really has no knowledge behind it.
Yeah.
It has a lot of data and no knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big mistake some make.
Yeah, I agree. We have to have a leash on AI until they expand some of the new data centers with some better chips and all, and networking.
Biggest takeaway that I've gotten from today is identifying some of the larger trends before they become obvious. You have a wonderful newsletter, Money and Megatrends, which is actually free. How can our viewers learn more about your newsletter and also sign up?
Yeah, very easy. Go to MarketWise.com. You'll see up top Money Megatrends right there. You can just click on it, and it's obvious how to read, how to sign up. It's absolutely free. And what we try to do is share what the biggest trends are, where to invest with a gale force tailwind at your back. And the long-term goal of the business is to expand awareness of MarketWise's products and quote and share research from guys like Louie, who are writing incredible products and providing incredible service, and have fun along the way.
Yeah, that's a great comment. And I think for everybody out there, Wall Street doesn't sell stocks the way they used to. They obviously get excited about the IPOs and stuff because they're going to make a lot of money on the underwriting fees. But if you go to your average financial advisor, they're not selling stocks. They're selling private credit, private equity. They're selling structured notes. The covering stocks has kind of died. And it's really, the burden is falling on us here at Investor Place and MarketWise to go out and tell everybody about stocks. And that's why myself and other editors have these databases you can use and access and empower you. So we're here to empower you, and Brian's been leading the charge, and we're grateful to have you on Navellier Market Buzz.
Yep, great to be here. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Well, thank you all so much for watching. As always, Brian's links will be in the description below. Please give this video a like and subscribe. If you enjoyed us and enjoyed us being in the studio, it helps us so much. But thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you in our midweek update.